What is up, everybody? Sergeant Arkwright here, and today we're reacting to Case Blue, or in German, Fall Blau. If you don't know, this was the operation in 1942, when it was right after Operation Barbarossa, when they took that huge chunk of land from the Soviet Union, and it sort of slowed down. So, in the summer of 1942, they decided to go south and take this region called the Caucasus, and it had a ton of resources and like oil, for example. I'm pretty sure it's the only resource that they were trying to get from that, and they're also trying to take over the rest of Ukraine. The Ukraine. So I got another recommendation from 501st. They wanted me to react to the Estonian War of Independence. I'll react to that after this. But unfortunately, and I'm talking a lot, but just excuse this. Oh, wait. Okay, anyways, sorry about that. Provincial History doesn't have a video about Fall Blau, but they have one about Operation Barbarossa and Kursk. Which is interesting, because Kursk had very little significance. It didn't really, it had zero significance. And Fall Blau, and it is literally the only chance that Germany had to win World War II. If they would have done that successfully, they would have had maybe a good 40% chance of winning the war, or maybe even 60%. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking. Let's get into this. It's only 5 minutes long, so hopefully this is good.
Case Blue, or Fall Blau, was the name of the German offensive in summer 1942, which led to the encirclement of the German Sixth Army in Stalingrad and a failed push to take the Soviet oil fields in the Caucasus region.
Well, he took some of them.
This video will take a short look at the comparison of the combat effectiveness of German divisions in 1941 and 1942.
Why is it loading?
Hey folks, I'm Joe Biden.
Oh, another Joe Biden ad, great.
Ask you to join my campaign.
Sorry, Joe Biden.
I'm not really happy with the title Road to Stalingrad here, but the content is related to the disaster at Stalingrad in two ways. First off, we get a general idea about the capabilities of the German army in 1942, and second, the data gives a clear indication that calling Stalingrad a turning point in the war is more of a superficial statement that ignores the tremendous losses the German army suffered during Operation Barbarossa and the Soviet counterattack in winter 1941-1942.
Yeah, it really wasn't a turning point. In fact, Chick made a great video on this. You could argue that there was no turning point and Germany was doomed from the start. Because of lack of resources. And if they would have done it earlier than they did, if they would have went to war earlier than they did, or after they did, then if they did it before, they would have been unprepared. If they would have done it after, their allies would have been a lot more strengthened. So literally, they were pretty much doomed from the start. And this was Fall Blau was their only chance. It was a roll of the dice to see if they could win.
Just to give you some numbers here. General Staff of the German Army assumed that around May 1942 the army was short of 600,025 men, although in June 1942 this number was, according to the Organization Department of the General Staff, 740,000
Oh, wow.
In terms of equipment, the situation wasn't much better. In March 1942 there was a lack of 36,500 trucks and 44,000 motorcycles. For tanks, the numbers were similar. In March 1942, the army was short almost 2,100 tanks. For comparison, in 1941, the German army attacked with about 3,650 tanks and assault guns.
Wow.
These numbers are just a glimpse at the details. But let's take a look at the assessment of the Organization Department of the General Staff of the Army, which determined the combat effectiveness of the German divisions in summer 1941, prior to Barbarossa, and in the end of March 1942, during the planning of Case Blue. Now this is not a perfect comparison, since the data for 1941 is immediately prior to the operation, whereas the data for 1942 is a bit less than 3 months before the operation. But I think to give a clear indication on the overall combat effectiveness of the army in 1941 and 1942. There were 5 categories that were slightly differently phrased in both years, but in overall equivalent or similar. and they were as follows: suited for all operations, suited for offensive operations after rest, suited for limited offensive operation, fully suited for defense, and suited for limited defensive operations. For summer 1941, we have the following numbers: 136 fully suited divisions, 8 almost.
That's a lot. Well, actually, that's actually not that much.
Fully suited, 19 partially suited divisions.
Is it? Actually, I don't know. Ignore that. I didn't know what I was talking about.
22 that were only suited for defense, and 24 that were only suited to a certain degree of defensive operations, for a total of 290.
Oh, 24 divisions. That's
By March 1942, the numbers are a bit different. Only 8 divisions received the highest rating, 3 in the second.
8? Eight. Wow.
Category, 47 that were capable
That
of
is
performing limited
crazy.
offensive operations, yet the majority was categorized only suited for the defense, with 73 divisions, and finally 29 divisions that could only be used for limited defensive
How many divisions is that?
operations. This gives a total of 106 divisions plus 2 occupation divisions.
Only 2 for occupations? That doesn't seem like a lot. Like, they have a ton of land. How? So I'm just going to assume that this is all on the Eastern Front. Because it doesn't make any sense if it wasn't. But anyways, they lost a good amount of divisions. Wow, like 49 divisions that they lost. Or more like 47, but whatever. Wow.
As you can see, the German army went from an
How did they lose divisions?
army that had a majority of its divisions suited for all operations to an army that was mainly suited for defensive operations, according to their own assessment. Of course, several divisions could be reinforced till summer 1942, but still the difference is staggering. Now the question arises, how could the German army with these numbers still achieve the initial successes of Case Blue? Well, there are several reasons for this. I will name a few, but in no particular order. First, the use of non-German troops allowed the concentration of the best German units for offensive operations. Second, a vast amount of reinforcements was diverted to Heeresgruppe Süd, Army Group South, that
Not as much focus as there should be.
performed Case Blue. For instance, Panzer divisions in the Heeresgruppe Süd had usually 3 tank battalions, whereas the Panzer divisions of the other army groups usually had only 1 tank battalion at that time. But the majority of the Luftwaffe supported Army Group South during Case Blue and achieved air superiority. Fourth, the quality of troops of the Wehrmacht was still at a high rate. This was further amplified by the fact that the Soviet command made various wrong assessments. To quote the military historian Glantz about the failed Soviet offensive operations in May 1942,
And also, Germany had the surprise advantage, because what happened was, whenever Germany did Operation Barbarossa, Stalin thought, okay, they're gonna go for the south because that's where we have all of our important resources. Of course, Germany wasn't trying to get resources at the time; they were just trying to completely capitulate them. But so Germany just mainly goes for the center to take Moscow and Leningrad and Kiev. So then they fail to take Moscow, and Stalin is like, okay, they're gonna go for Moscow. So I'm going to focus on Moscow since that's what they're probably going to do in the next offensive. But it turns out this time Germany goes for the south. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So yeah, they have the surprise advantage too. And then there's the fact that the Soviet troops literally, Soviet armies there just disintegrate into this chaotic retreat. And that is a reason for their initial success, the fact that they chaotically retreated. But at the same time, it wasn't good for the long term. Because Germany, they were expecting it to be more of a longer drawn out operation. They expected to be able to get these large encirclements like they were in 1941. But that didn't happen. They couldn't close around the troops. They were just running away. They couldn't trap them. So those troops later were able to fight back at Stalingrad and Volga and other places, Caucasus.
These disasters were clearly of Stavka's own making, for even after nearly a year of intense combat, it failed to comprehend either its own capabilities or those of the Wehrmacht. And these failed operations are point number 5. Sixth, the Soviets suspected an attack against Moscow, or at least the Arab Army Group center. Thus, Case Blue achieved the element of surprise. Seventh,
Oh, there you said that.
although the territorial gains were substantial, the goal of elimination a large amount of enemy troops was not achieved. But more on this when we take a closer look at Case Blue in another video. So stay tuned.
Oh, they have another video about this?
Thank you for watching.
Okay, did they have it? Where's that? Go away, Joe Biden. Is there... Nope. Okay, whatever. Well, I wish that would have been longer. Maybe next, like, in a couple of videos later, we can react to this other video, whatever that is. That should be interesting. There aren't very many videos. Look, watch this. I'll search this up right now. We have Tick. I've already watched his amazing video. But it's an hour long, and that would make a really long video for me. And then there's this one, which is 40 minutes, and again, too long. That one, alternate history. And then I find this one, and that seems like the only one. All these other ones aren't really about Fall Blau, which kind of sucks. But oh well. Maybe I could do my own video explaining it. I don't know. What yeah, thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.